Part 62. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 611. Feeling the strange movement in his body, Zuyun was very sure. Looking at the azure light, he slowly reached out and walked over. Until he was close to the water spirit bead, he finally saw a blue bead in the light ball. Compared with the pure fire spirit bead and the emerald green of the wood spirit bead, the water spirit bead is somewhat clear. I didn't expect it. Zuyun was so excited that even his lips trembled. But he didn't rush to take the water spirit bead, but forced himself to calm down. Each series of spirit beads are treasures. The fire spirit bead formed an island above the sea, just because there was a ground fire at that time, so I thought it was the ground fire that did it. The wood spirit bead turned into wood green and stayed with the ancestral tree. But the water spirit bead is the culprit that caused the different day and night in Lake Baiwa. He felt something was wrong. Water is said to be moist, and it shouldn't be like this. So, this so-called natural formation used to suppress the sky fire dragon is fake? Then, is it related to the heavenly book secret realm? Thinking of this, Zuyun couldn't help but frowned. If the water spirit pearl would affect the heavenly book secret realm, or if the secret realm was originally inside the water spirit pearl, it would be inappropriate for him to take it away like this. By the way, take out the entry bead and have a look. When Zuyun thought of the heavenly book secret realm, he thought of the entry bead and immediately took the two beads from the ring. The entry bead is more like a top-grade pearl, and has nothing in common with the water spirit pearl. Except that they are both round. It has nothing to do with the heavenly book secret realm. Zuyun breathed a sigh of relief, but still did not move, but looked around with the light of the water spirit pearl. But outside the light ball, except for the black shadow, he couldn't see anything at all. So, could it be that this water spirit pearl is the center of this formation? After excluding the connection with the heavenly book secret realm, Zuyun thought of the formation. With his current understanding of Lake Baiwa and Huaitan Valley, he knew that this was the place used to trap the Skyfire Dragon. The Skyfire Dragon was extremely terrifying and violent. And the power of the Skyfire could not be suppressed by ordinary water. The five elements are mutually generated and restrained, but as long as the restrained one has enough energy, it will not be restrained. Just like on Lake Baiwa at this time. If the Lord of Baiwa City did not use the lake water, he would not be able to suppress the Skyfire Dragon at all. And the Skyfire Dragon itself is powerful enough. Even if it has been suppressed for many years, its own strength is still very easy to deal with the Lord of Baiwa City. So between the five elements, can it also go against the grain? Suddenly, Zuyun's heart was shocked, and a sound of broken glass sounded in his mind. The Five Elements Chaos Sutra can be said to be a very thorough explanation of the five elements, but it has always been discussed in the order of mutual restraint, and even mentioned mutual generation. In addition to the preface on the first 2 pages. And seeing the two attributes of water and fire fighting inseparably, Zuyun seemed to have some enlightenment in his heart. Ordinary epiphany only made him understand the Tao a step further. But the technique he practiced was the Five Elements Chaos Sutra. After having a new understanding of the attributes, it was natural. At the same time, the water spirit pearl seemed to have sensed the abnormality in Zuyun, and it also shone brightly. Before Zuyun could react, it turned into a blue light and rushed straight into Zuyun's body. The location was the kidney. The water spirit pearl did not suffer any delay at all, and rushed straight in, merging with Zuyun's kidney. It was like the fire spirit pearl to the heart and the wood spirit pearl to the liver. Boom! With a loud bang, the chaos power flowing in the meridians in the body immediately turned into cold water spirit power after passing through the kidneys. Wherever the water spirit power goes, it will bring waves of coldness. When passing through the purple mansion, his mind suddenly became exceptionally clear. Zuyun felt the changes in his body. He had been using the water escape technique to merge with the water. But at this moment, he felt like he was a pool of water. Although he was clearly in the process of breaking through, he suddenly opened his eyes. Feeling the surroundings of his body, countless undercurrents rushed towards him frantically. It was as if a gust of wind blew through his body, without taking away a piece. Wait, that's not right? Under the nourishment of the water spirit power, Zuyun was particularly sober. These undercurrents surged from the front and from the back, leaving behind the pure and incomparable water spirit power. These water spirit powers flowed into the meridians in the body and immediately merged with the wandering water spirit power. Just like the countless rivers in the mountains and rivers, whether it is rain, ice, and snow, they will eventually flow into the sea. And the sea in Zuyun's body is the chaos seed. The rivers began to grow, and the spiritual power was magnificent. At this moment, Zuyun seemed to be in a world, overlooking the scene from the sky. Boom! 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 The surging waves, like the roar of thousands of horses, were transmitted from the lower abdomen to the purple palace. It was related to the water spirit pearl entering the body. It was also related to his breakthrough. And it was also related to his being at the bottom of Lake Baiwa. It was like a cultivator who was breaking through and happened to be in a fairyland with extremely abundant spiritual power. Zuyun had never thought that he would gain such a great benefit when he obtained the water spirit pearl. Gradually, with Zuyun as the center, a huge vortex was formed. And on Lake Baipa, a strange phenomenon also occurred suddenly. It is more than 1,000 feet away from the lake. But because of Zuyun's breakthrough and crazy absorption of the water's spiritual power, a turbulent wave arose on the water. The Lord of Baiwa City was horrified to find that the spiritual power on the lake began to change, and he could no longer absorb the water from Lake Baipa for his own use. I thought that if I could no longer suppress the Sky-Fire Dragon, I would be killed by him, but I was shocked to find that the Sky-Fire Dragon had shrunk into a small ball of fire and was trembling. What's going on? The Lord of Baiwa City was afraid that this was a move by the heavenly fire dragon to lure the enemy, and being cautious by nature, he did not dare to act rashly. But don't know. This gives Zuyun an opportunity. Finally, Zuyun's speed of absorbing spiritual power slowly slowed down. Looking inside the body, he could not help but be extremely pleasantly surprised at the chaos seed that was almost half the size. One spirit bead can allow me to break through a small realm. I have collected 3 of the 5 great spirit beads. If I collect 2 more and put them all into the 5 internal organs, I don't know what changes will happen. Is it possible? What about flying in place? Feeling the huge power in his body, Zuyun couldn't help but secretly guess. Looking back, he still knows that the steps to cultivate immortality need to be down to earth. If you walk too fast, you won't be able to walk steadily enough, and you may easily get carried away and fall into the devil's path. I don't know what happened to that boy Zhu Feng. When I come back from Yunzhou again, I must deal with him. Otherwise, I won't feel at ease even if I go to the spirit world. Zuyun had already decided in his heart that he would wait for the big dog and the 2 dogs to improve their cultivation and then go to the spiritual world together. He will definitely reach the nascent soul stage first, so while waiting, he must kill Zhu Feng first. With the demon refining tower in his hands, no one knows how many creatures will die miserably in his hands. As the undercurrent gradually calmed down, Zuyun also knew that time was almost up. At the same time, under the transformation of the chaos seeds, all the water spiritual power in the body was transformed into chaos power and existed in the seeds. There is only a small amount of normally operating chaos force wandering around, providing Zuyun with the most basic power. Now, let's see how they fought. The water spirit pearl is already in my kidney. No matter how strong your Sky-Fire Dragon is, it's nothing to worry about. As for the Lord of Baiwa City, Zuyun was not worried at all. As long as the range is large enough, Beiwa City Lord can't catch him at all. Zhao Kamang, it's time to go home. Zuyun smiled slightly and immediately felt that Zhao Kamang was protecting the Lo half a mile away. After merging the water spirit pearl, he discovered that in Lake Baipa, he knew everything that happened within a 3-mile radius. For example, those light spots are indeed a kind of strange fish with barbs on its back. The light spots are like lanterns thrown by strange fish, used as bait to catch food. At the same time, he also has one more ability. Even if you can breathe freely in the water, you won't make bubbles when talking. Ho ho ho. Zhao Kamang swam over quickly and roared at Zuyun, expressing that he was also happy for Zuyun's breakthrough. Go back, now I'm going to solve the problem. Zuyun smoothly put Zhao Kamang away, and then with a thought, he appeared 3 miles away. The water escape technique has also been enhanced due to the use of water spirit beads. Good. Zuyun felt proud. When he meets someone powerful in the future, he can just run into the water. Soon, he fled under the lake. After he broke through, the lake surface returned to calm. And he also saw a strange scene. The Lord of Beiwa City and the Sky Fire Dragon were 100 steps apart, looking at each other, and neither of them made a move. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 612. Fight, why don't you fight? Zuyun secretly urged in his heart. Only when they fight and decide the winner can he have an opportunity. If you keep watching like this, the sky will light up and the rooster will crow. By then, they will definitely find that Lake Baiwa has changed, and they may not be interested in fighting anymore. After watching for half an hour, one person became angry and stood still. At this time, the competition is patience. Preemptive strike, the first strike, may not necessarily be effective when faced head-on. Seeing the red clouds gradually appearing on the horizon, and the sky was about to light up, Zuyun became anxious. No, this is not the way to go. A strong man like Beiwa City Lord must be very patient. And spiritual beings like the Sky Fire Dragon can be trapped here for thousands of years, and I'm afraid they won't be able to weaken his will. Look. It seems that it's up to me to add fuel to the fire so that they can fight. Zuyun was so anxious that he decided to pretend to be one of them and take action, but soon he became a little entangled. He was carrying the wood spirit pearl. When he was still in the Huaytan Valley, he used the wood spirit pearl to absorb the wood spirit power of many Beiwa City lords. Even after being purified and tempered by the wood spirit pearl, he should not be able to produce the Sky Fire Dragon. Suspect. Moreover, in that case, the Sky Fire Dragon would not even notice that it was him. But here's the thing. Under normal circumstances, would fire spiritual power be used to fight against Sky Fire? This is not a wise choice. Or, use water spiritual power? He has also used water from Lake Baiwa before, which is a good method. But let's not mention that he doesn't understand water spells. The most important thing is that the Lord of Beiwa City controls water through his natal spiritual weapon. In this case, it is obviously inappropriate to pretend to be the Lord of Beiwa City. So, what about pretending to be the magical power of the Sky Fire Dragon? After Zuyun thought for a moment, he felt that this was feasible. He didn't know how many magical powers the Sky Fire Dragon had, but since Fen Tianyan recognized his master, what he had seen the most was turning into a sea of fire and attacking with a range. Although Fen Tianyan is still in the Immortal Mansion at this time, he is not weak when it comes to using fire. And, doesn't this also have a fire dragon staff? Thinking of this, Zuyun immediately thought about the feasibility of this matter. The most critical core part of the fire dragon staff is its reverse scale. And the fire dragon is a spiritual beast and has no demonic aura on it. Even the flames wielded by the fire dragon staff can have the aura of earth fire. Before using the fire dragon staff for the last time, the fire dragon told him that he would fall into a deep sleep, fight with the earthly fire through his consciousness, and strive to become the weapon spirit of the fire dragon staff as completely as possible. And this kind of battle is to completely merge into one, until it completely devours the opponent, and finally takes the initiative. But at this time, it had no impact on Zhu Yun's use. Then let me pretend to be attacked by the sky fire dragon. At this moment, everyone is like a frightened bird. As long as the Lord of Beiwa City responds hastily, this fight will start again. After making the decision, Zhu Yun immediately used water escape technique to move under the sky fire dragon. At this time, the red clouds were slowly falling on the Baipo lake. The waves were sparkling and the reflection was dazzling, which affected the sight of Beiwa City Lord to a certain extent. To be on the safe side, Zhu Yun still used the water spirit pearl to cause some water mist to rise on the surface of Lake Pipa. If he didn't move, there was no chance that Beiwa City Lord and Sky Fire Dragon would discover him. After integrating the water spirit pearl, Zhu Yun's water escape technique has been qualitatively improved. So when using his spiritual power at this time, he was extremely careful and only used 1/10,000,000th of his spiritual power. As the mist gradually rose, Beiwa City Lord's expression suddenly changed slightly. Just because he remembered Lake Baiwa, where spirits are forbidden during the day. At this moment, he just thought of this and decided to quit. Zhu Yun kept staring at the face of the Lord of Beiwa City, and was shocked when he saw this. No, it's time to take action. If we can't deal with the Lord of Beiwa City at this time, I'm afraid I won't be able to live peacefully in the Pipa realm. Through some of the words that old man Feng said to him, Zhu Yun knew very well that these hidden powers were really of the same species. If they can work together to force old man Feng to act crazy, they can naturally communicate with each other to deal with Zhu Yun. How could people in their realm take the unwritten rules of the Pipa realm seriously? To deal with the nascent soul stage, Zhu Yundu had to fight and retreat at the same time, and had to rack his brains to think of a way. If it's a group, Zhu Yun didn't dare to think about it. There is no need to hurt him, just let him know that the Sky Fire Dragon will do it. With a cold look on his face, Zhu Yun quietly poked his head out from under the water, but at this moment, the Lord of Beiwa City was about to teleport away. Zhu Yun's heart tightened, and the fire dragon staff immediately appeared in his hand. Unexpectedly, the Sky Fire Dragon discovered that the Lord of Beiwa City wanted to escape, and immediately turned into a sea of fire, overwhelmingly sweeping towards the location where the Lord of Beiwa City might appear. From a distance, it seems that the fire and the glow on the horizon are connected, which shows how wide the scope is. Good opportunity, fire. Zhu Yun was overjoyed, and then he shouted in his heart, and a dragon roar suddenly sounded. Hold head high. This sound was very different from the roar of the Sky Fire Dragon, especially on such a wide lakeside, so the Lord of Beiwa City did not expect that there was someone else. Although the Sky Fire Dragon was surprised, this was a good opportunity to hunt down the Lord of Beiwa City. If someone really took action, wouldn't they be on his side? Moreover, he felt a sense of familiarity from the dragon's roar. Is it also a spiritual fire that can transform into a dragon? If I swallow him, I think my strength will be restored faster. But now, I deign to join forces with you first. For the sake of helping me, I will make your death more pleasant when I devour you. Indeed, the fire dragon transformed from the fire dragon staff is the fusion of the soul of the fire dragon and the earth fire. It has the aura of spiritual fire and the shape of a dragon, which makes the Sky Fire Dragon feel that it can be a great supplement when he escapes from trouble. Then, he took the initiative to cooperate with Zhu Yun's fire dragon staff and actually forced the Lord of Beiwa City to have nowhere to go. The sea of fire filled the sky, like a natural phenomenon, completely covering the mid-air within a 3-mile radius. Impossible, impossible. If this sky fire was so strong, he would have killed me long ago. He can't have such intelligence to suppress his own strength. Feeling the extremely majestic sea of fire, the Lord of Beiwa City knew that it would be useless if he didn't believe it. Now, it's time to choose to get out of trouble. And the only means he can use is this lake full of water. At that moment, he no longer conserved his spiritual energy. The nascent soul was spinning crazily in his belly. All the spiritual energy was like a flood that burst a dam, pouring into his hands with great force, and then passed to his life. Among the spiritual weapons, dragon sucks water. He shouted loudly, and under his command, the spout of the spiritual weapon turned into the shape of a real dragon and lowered its head. A terrifying suction force actually sucked out a huge water column. The Lord of Beiwa City holds the handle of the pot with his right hand, and keeps holding the magic formula with his left hand, while he is also mumbling words. The water column kept getting thicker, bigger, and longer, and surrounded him under his control. I thought you wanted to attack by force, but I didn't expect that you wanted to protect yourself and escape from Lake Baiwa. On the water, Zuyun immediately saw through the thoughts of the Lord of Beiwa City. However, how could I let you succeed? Just because you abused the two demon foxes in this way, it is an unforgivable crime. Otherwise, if I don't say I will be able to meet Senior Ye Yang in the future, even Qiu Qi, I will have no face to face him. Zuyun's eyes narrowed, his mind moved slightly, and the water spirit beads in his kidneys bloomed with a flash of blue light. Let me go. He doesn't know much about water magic, but he can control water within a 3-mile radius through the water spirit bead. Suddenly, water columns scattered in all directions, like a downpour, and fell back into Lake Baiwa. Before the Lord of Beiwa City could figure out the reason, the flames of the Skyfire Dragon had already swept through his body. No! A scream spread throughout Lake Baiwa and kept echoing. It even surprised the fishermen who lived not far from Lake Baiwa and were getting up to go fishing. Seeing the firelight filling the sky from a distance, they showed piety on their faces, and they all knelt down and knelt down. No! 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 The sound fades. When the screams completely subsided, the Lord of Beiwa City was dead. He couldn't even escape the nascent soul body. Just because spiritual fire naturally restrains this kind of spirit body. At this time, the Skyfire Dragon transformed into a dragon shape, staring directly at Zuyun, whose half-body was above the water, and then turned to his fire dragon staff. The reverse scale of the fire dragon, the breath of earth fire. Only then did he realize that the fire dragon that helped him was actually released by the staff in this kid's hand. And, aren't you afraid of death? Skyfire Dragon was a little surprised, but when he spoke, he was full of disdain. Who would have thought that Zuyun grinned, floated his lower body out of the water, and stood quietly on the water. There was no water stain on the whole body. Why should I be afraid of you? He said calmly. Aren't you afraid? Skyfire Dragon seemed to have heard a big joke, and he laughed wildly. After a while, he lowered his head and said contemptuously, Do you know, I am Skyfire. Skyfire. Zuyun chuckled, stretched out a little finger and gestured, Even if you are a Skyfire, how can I be afraid of a short Skyfire like you? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 613. Skyfire Dragon didn't react for a moment, and when Zuyun took his hand back, he even said disdainfully, I heard from the Feng family that your name is Skyfire Chong, right? Zuyun's words were not lethal enough and extremely insulting. Spiritual beings like the Skyfire Dragon are extremely proud. Zuyun had some understanding from his contact with Fen Tianyan. I still remember that when he first conquered it, Fen Tianyan was almost mentally drained by the endless years, but he kept shouting that he could burn the sky. Zuyun doesn't know whether it can burn the sky. But that time, Fen Tianyan actually wanted to become the guest, and Zuyun had a deeper understanding of this kind of spiritual creature that was born and raised in the world. Really? Zuyun's fire angered the sky fire dragon. Damn the human race! This heavenly fire is transformed from the soul of a pure fire dragon. How can you, the despicable ants, insult it? As soon as he finished speaking, the sky fire dragon roared angrily and turned into a flash of fire and rushed towards Zuyun. That's it? Zuyun's face was full of disdain. The gesture he made with his little finger just now was indeed a bit exaggerated. But at this time, the sky fire dragon, which was as thick as his forearm, was nothing to worry about. In the battle with the Lord of Beiwa City, he also consumed a lot of energy. More importantly, in the end, in order to keep the Lord of Beiwa City here forever and prevent his news from being known to the people in the Peepa realm, he chose to kill him regardless of the cost. What's more, he thought that Zuyun's action was the help of another spiritual fire. The fire power he had consumed could engulf it and finally recover. But what I didn't expect was that the person who took action was a monk in the late stage of pill formation. When he was still a pure fire dragon, he had killed many such monks. And never took it to heart. But I didn't expect that this kid was so bold that he dared to call me a bug. As Zuyun raised his hand slightly, a water column suddenly emerged from the Peepa lake. Immediately afterwards, the water column turned into a huge palm and slapped it straight towards the Skyfire dragon. Chichichi. Although the Skyfire dragon has shrunk in size, its own strength is also greatly limited, and its fire power is also insufficient. But the temperature never weakened. Countless water vapor has been evaporated before the palms transformed by the lake water fully come into contact with each other. It's just ordinary water. It's just water spiritual power. Is it worthy of stopping my heavenly fire? This was the reason why Tian Huolong didn't pay attention to Zuyun's tempting palm. But he didn't expect it anyway. With Zuyun as the center, Zuyun can use all the lake water within a radius of 3 miles. Because of the characteristics of water, as long as Zuyun draws up the water within this range, the water outside the range will continue to be replenished here. That is to say, all the water in Lake Baiwa can be used by Zuyun. As long as the chaos power in his body is enough to support it. Skyfire Dragon didn't know what situation he would face. His figure had already penetrated several feet deep into the palm of his hand. There was water vapor everywhere, making it difficult for him to see the situation clearly. But soon, he discovered that he couldn't seem to get through this palm at all. So, how can he burn that ant to death? Another stick of incense has passed. The Skyfire Dragon felt that it had penetrated more than 30 feet. But he discovered that it seemed to be an endlessly thick palm. He can't get through. And outside the palm of his hand, old god Zuyun was there. The palm that condensed this lake water was not even a spell at all. He just used the properties of the water spirit beads and a little bit of chaos power. This kind of consumption is negligible for him who has already broken through to the late stage of pill formation. If possible, he could stay here for 10 days and a half without feeling tired at all. Under this situation, Skyfire Dragon felt increasingly powerless. It wasn't until he suddenly came back to his senses that he realized that his body, which was as thick as a forearm, had actually turned into an earthworm. Just when he was extremely shocked, Zuyun's voice suddenly came from outside the palm of his hand. Hey, you are said to be a Skyfire insect, you still don't believe it? How about I get you a mirror to look at you? As soon as the words fell, the palms of the lake water suddenly dispersed. When the Skyfire Dragon saw the sky again, he was surprised to find that it was still more than 30 steps away from Zuyun. You must know that before, it was only more than 100 steps. Why is it still so far away now? What are you looking at me doing? Zuyun raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, I do have a mirror, but I can't show it to you. Of course, you can lower your head and take a look. The water of Lake Pipa is enough to shine on you. The Skyfire Dragon felt very uncomfortable with the resentment in his heart. He knew that his figure had shrunk and turned into the Skyfire insect in Zhu Yun's mouth, but he still looked down involuntarily. The lake surface reflects the blue sky. There were no clouds in the sky, and Lake Pipa was like a pipa mirror, reflecting his slender body and making him calm down a little. Escape. For a moment, such a word appeared in Skyfire Dragon's heart. Because he knew that there was nothing he could do to Zhu Yun at this time. Hey, Skyfire insect. At this time, seeing that the Skyfire Dragon seemed to be thinking about something, Zhu Yun immediately interrupted. But before it was over, he didn't know that the Skyfire Dragon had already begun to think about retreating, so he still said with a smile, "Didn't you see clearly? Do you want to pee and take a picture? Damn it, damn it. You humble ant, you actually mocked my Skyfire Dragon." Skyfire Dragon, who had just shown intention to retreat, was once again angered by Zhu Yun, and his anger covered up his reason. Firelight. No, it should be said to be a live wire now. The Skyfire Dragon rushed straight towards Zhu Yun's eyebrows. He wanted to burn Zhu Yun until his soul was completely destroyed. Pity. The Skyfire Dragon poses no threat to Zhu Yun at all at this time. Even Zhu Yun didn't even bother to use the water spirit beads to lure the water of Pipa Lake to suppress him again. He used the void-breaking spirit eye technique, and the speed of the Skyfire Dragon instantly slowed down in his eyes. Just when he saw the right moment and stretched out 2 fingers to pinch the Skyfire Dragon with his bare hands, an accident happened. I saw. A ball of ethereal fire suddenly erupted from Zhu Yun's left chest. This firelight has no temperature. It looks more like a ghost. The phantom directly enveloped the Skyfire Dragon, and then took the Skyfire Dragon back into Zhu Yun's chest. Is this, the fire spirit bead swallowing him? Zhu Yun was stunned by this scene, and couldn't help but wonder in his heart, if he had known earlier that the fire spirit pearl would suck the Skyfire Dragon into it, would he have bothered so much? But after thinking about it, Zhu Yun was relieved. Maybe the Skyfire Dragon was too weak at this time, so it was controlled by the fire spirit orb. If he is still strong, maybe the firelings can't do anything to him. You know, when the earth fire was trapped in the fire spirit orb, it also caused such a storm. Thinking about the stronger heavenly dragon fire, it might not be that simple. In addition, the fire spirit bead sucked the Skyfire Dragon in, presumably because of the distance. Otherwise, why would he wait until the Skyfire Dragon was about to attack his eyebrows if he didn't inhale just now? Also at this time, the sun in the sky suddenly jumped over the distant horizon. The sun shone completely on Zhu Yun's body, and warmth spread throughout his body. He quickly came to his senses and saw some busy figures on the shore of the lake in the distance. After the sky-wide flames of the Skyfire Dragon disappeared, the fisherman thought that the miracle was over and hurried out to fish. This was definitely a good sign. Zhu Yun put away his eyes, quickly fell into the water, and fled in the direction of Pipa Prefecture. 3 miles at a time, Zhu Yun soon walked from the lake to the shore, and then he took off again and flew into the Huaitan Valley. Little brother, you are finally back. Before he landed, Old Man Feng spotted his figure and immediately spoke out. I saw Xianxia and Feng Qingyang lying side by side on the ground. Did you rescue them? At this time, all the crises were eliminated, and Zhu Yun's mood rarely relaxed. Yes, I was rescued, but not saved. Old Man Feng scratched his hair with both hands, looking a little crazy. Not saved? What do you mean? Dead? Zhu Yun asked 3 times, but found that the 2 people were still alive, their chests were rising and falling gently, and they looked more like they were sleeping soundly. I don't know what's going on. I only know how to refine swords, not the art of medicine and stone. Old Man Feng looked at Zhu Yun pleadingly, obviously wanting to ask him for help. Zhu Yun said helplessly, Old man Feng, you can't do anything at the nascent soul stage, what can I do at the Dan formation stage? No, no, you misunderstood, old man Feng said quickly, little brother, there was so much noise outside just now. The fire dragon and the lord of Beiwa city also recognized me that day. I am afraid I will die if I go out. And your ability to escape is so good. If you are strong, you can definitely take them out. Take them away. Zuyun frowned and said, you mean, you don't want to leave, but you stay here. The sky fire dragon was subdued by the fire spirit pearl. At this time, there was no movement in his heart, and Zuyun did not observe it carefully. But he was very sure that the sky fire dragon was now the sky fire insect and could not cause any trouble at all. As for the lord of Beiwa city, it was burned to the ground by the heavenly fire, and there was no residue left. Even if there is, it must have fallen into the lake and become food for the fish in the lake. However, he didn't say it clearly because he wanted to know what old man Feng meant. Little brother, although I am not a serious old man, I do know some rules. There is no white man in the world who does not accept payment. The 50,000 spiritual stones you traded with me, and now I give you 30,000 back, and they are still in this heavenly painting scroll. In addition, this scroll is given to you too. After saying that, old man Feng took out the heavenly painting scroll and presented it to Zuyun. But Zuyun did not accept it. Instead, he looked at old man Feng and said, I can understand if you want me to take Feng Qingyang away. After all, he is your biological son. But she is not a relative, so why should you do this? Zuyunji is very principled. If you agree to old man Feng, wouldn't you have to take good care of Xianxia along the way? This was not what he wanted to see. Besides, he had no intention of leaving. After all, the secret scroll of the heavenly book will be opened here. Hey, little brother, the ancestral teachings say that if the sky fire dragon escapes from trouble, the contemporary head of the Feng family, that is, the contemporary head of the Feng family, needs to die to apologize. I, old man Feng, have been living in a mess, so I have the opportunity to practice to the Yuan dynasty. Infancy, just think that I have had enough. There was a lonely look in old man Feng's eyes, and he turned to look at Feng Qingyang, revealing a touch of kindness. At this moment, Zhu Rong appeared in Zhu Yun's mind again. He couldn't help but wonder, if old man Feng was Zhu Rong, would he make the same decision? Little brother, please. 30,000 spirit stones will be used as your travel expenses for taking away the two of them. Painting heavenly scroll will be used as a benefit for you to save my son. As for my wife here, I have nothing to offer, so I will give me the shuttle. After saying that, he raised his hand, and the shuttle flew straight out of Feng Qinjiang's storage bag and landed in Zhu Yun's hands. Zhu Yun came back to his senses, looked at the shuttle in his hand, and then looked at the Huatian scroll, and his heart was inevitably moved. He had done things of robbery, but he had never used this situation to obtain the treasure he wanted. Taking a deep breath, Zhu Yun resisted the unintentional greed and said seriously, Old Feng, you said she is your daughter-in-law. Did you see it wrong? No, no, how could I see it wrong? If my son didn't really like her, how could he have sex with her on the spot after tempering the broken fan? Because of this, when the Tianhuo dragon escaped, he was contaminated with the breath of Tianhuo. Zhu Yun thought for a moment and said, Old Feng, there is something I need to tell you. But I hope you can be mentally prepared. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 614. What do you want to say to me? Listening to Zhu Yun's somewhat solemn tone, old man Feng couldn't help but trembled. He couldn't help but think about what he would do if he was rejected by Zhu Yun. Who knows? Zhu Yun grinned and said, You don't need to die. What's the meaning? Old man Feng was stunned for a moment, and then said, the heavenly fire dragon escaped. I, Feng and he, have no choice but to die to apologize. Now, I am just begging you as a father, so that the bloodline of my Feng family can continue. If you go down, you won't lose your incense. Zuyun only now knew Old Man Feng's name. He was speechless for a while, thinking that it was absolutely impossible to tell Old Man Feng that the Skyfire Dragon had actually been conquered by him. What if he has an obsession and wants to snatch it away from him? In this way, you have created an enemy for no reason. You have been in Huayden Valley, you don't know, right? The Lord of Beiwa City and the Skyfire Dragon died together. Zuyun was so anxious that he came up with an excellent reason. All dead. Old Man Feng's eyes widened, as if he couldn't believe it. Yes, they are all dead. I have been hiding in Lake Baipa and saw it. The Skyfire Dragon used all its strength to surround the Lord of Beiwa City, and the Lord of Beiwa City did not know what kind of magical power he used to rush into the People Lake with the Skyfire Dragon, and then came back silent. I was so scared that I ran ashore just as the sun was rising. Maybe they were all sucked into the bottom of the lake? Is that so? A glint suddenly flashed in Old Man Feng's eyes. He had been in Pipa Prefecture for generations and knew the characteristics of Lake Baipa very well. As long as it's dawn, Lake Baiwa is a place for forbidden spirits. Moreover, Lake Baipa has endless suction. No one has ever seen a monk who was sucked into the bottom of the lake come out alive. And the lake water is the last existence to suppress the Skyfire Dragon. From what Zuyun said, it is really possible. Of course it is. I can lie to you. Is there any benefit? Zuyun glanced at him, but stuffed the flying shuttle and the Huatian scroll into his arms. Old Man Feng became anxious and quickly reached out to grab it, but Zuyun dodged it with the secret of immortality. Little brother, didn't you say you don't want any benefits? Old Man Feng blew his beard and stared, thinking that Zuyun had asked a question before, so he refused to use his things for his own use. There's no point in lying to you, but the heavenly scroll, the spirit stone in it, and the shuttle are my reward for saving your family. Old Man Feng, you said before that this is a deal between us. Ah, this. Old Man Feng was speechless, staring at Zuyun, thinking to himself that he was still in the nascent soul stage after all, and this kid was only in the pill formation. Wrong. You broke through to the late stage of pill formation? When did it happen? He suddenly exclaimed. Zuyun broke through at the bottom of the lake. Although it caused a strange movement above the lake, there was originally a lot of noise from the fight between the Lord of Beiwa City and the Skyfire Dragon. Old Man Feng was concerned about Feng Qingyang, so naturally he would not notice it. This is a breakthrough. If you want to break through, just break through. Zuyun waved his hand lightly and said casually. Good boy. Old Man Feng looked at Zuyun, then at his son and Xianxia lying on the ground, and suddenly said, Little brother, do you have a Taoist companion? Zuyun frowned, wondering what Old Man Feng meant. What? You have a daughter you want to introduce to me, and you want to be related to me. No, no, you misunderstood. Old Man Feng shook his head quickly and said, I looked at you and then at my son. I didn't know whether to kill him or not. Ah. Zuyun felt that his thinking was not keeping up. Whether I have a Taoist companion or not, what does it have to do with whether you beat your son or not? You were asking me to save something in front of you, but you turned around with a look of disgust on your face. Oh, little brother, you don't know something. Old Man Feng sighed, sat down on the floor, and said, My son is a romantic by nature. Do you know what his purpose is in cultivating immortality? Zuyun subconsciously said, read all the beauties in the world. Right. Old Man Feng suddenly clapped his chin and said, he said that you can seek immortality by cultivating immortals. If you have enough longevity, you can travel throughout the mortal world. Zuyun was speechless. Thinking about this kind of training goal is a bit refreshing and refined. But suddenly, he felt that something was wrong. He had been paying attention to the battle between the Skyfire Dragon and the Lord of Beiwa City, but he had overlooked a very important thing. This is the secret realm of the Book of Heaven. He had long suspected that Feng Qingyang wanted to steal Xianxia's entrance pearl. If this is true, then this Feng Qingyang city is too deep, and even his father Feng and he has been deceived. Zuyun's eyes became a little solemn again, but old man Feng didn't know why. He thought Zuyun was helping him think of ways to persuade Feng Qingyang, so he didn't dare to interrupt Zuyun's thoughts. A long while. Zuyunke suddenly spoke and said, "Old man Feng, the secret realm of the Book of Heaven is open in your Pipa prefecture. Can your Feng family enter? Why did you talk about the secret realm of the Book of Heaven?" Feng and he muttered, and then said, "There is a book in the secret realm of the Book of Heaven, but not everyone can understand it." "What's the meaning?" Zuyun's whole body trembled. Hearing the meaning of these words, it seemed that Feng and he knew the heavenly book. "That's what it means. It's rumored that after cultivating the heavenly book in the secret realm, monks can practice unimpeded all the way to ascension. But in fact, there are many requirements and it is extremely difficult. Moreover, only specific people can understand the words in the heavenly book." Old man Feng said seriously, "Little brother, are you here for the Book of Heaven?" Zuyun quickly denied it and said, "What do I want from the heavenly book? I just happened to be here, and then I found out about the secret realm of the heavenly book." "Then why are you asking about the secret realm of the heavenly book?" Feng and he was obviously not interested, and even advised Zuyun, "Little brother, listen to the old man, if you really want to enter the secret realm of the heavenly book, I can help you find a way. However, don't go looking for the heavenly book." "Why?" Zuyun did not expect that he would be interested in following Feng and he to inquire about information. Listening to what this means, can Feng and he get the door beads? But this question is not important to him at all. He just wants to find out why Feng and he doesn't let him find the Book of Heaven that countless powerful people in the Peeper realm are eager to find. So he must know something. "Little brother, I have made it very clear. The Book of Heaven is not something you can read if you want to, you can read it if you want." Feng and he emphasized his tone and said, "And even if you can see it, you need to abandon your cultivation and start from scratch. Only in this way can you continue to practice all the way." Zuyun suddenly realized, that's it? He had never thought about practicing the heavenly book technique, but since he was going to get the heavenly book, of course he had to know what the heavenly book was, lest there would be a fight over it and he would get into trouble if he grabbed the wrong one. "What are the characteristics of that day's book?" Zuyun curled his lips, somewhat disapprovingly. "Characteristics? I have never seen or been to the secret realm of the heavenly book. How would I know? These are all ancestral teachings. In addition, our Feng family can help others enter the secret realm of the heavenly book, but we are not allowed to enter it ourselves." Feng and he continued, "Little brother, according to what the old man sees, the technique you practice must be the best choice. With such a young bone, you can practice to the late stage of pill formation. If you want to practice the heavenly book again, then that's putting the cart before the horse. I'd like to ask, is this little brother he Lingen?" Zuyun shook his head. It was impossible for him to tell Feng and he that he had 5 spiritual roots, otherwise, he might beat Feng Qingyang to death. After all, in the mortal world, the 5 spiritual roots are recognized as useless spiritual roots. Feng Qingyang obviously had a single line of wind spirit roots, but his cultivation was not as good as his own. In comparison with this, old man Feng would definitely feel aggrieved for Feng Qingyang. "Just think that I saved your life for free." Zuyun glanced at Feng Qingyang and muttered in his heart. After chatting casually with Feng and he for a few more words, and no longer getting any other important information about the secret realm of the Book of Heaven, Zuyun changed the topic to Feng Qingyang again. Old man Feng, how about you stay here and I take them out to find a cure? That really couldn't be better. Feng Anhe was overjoyed and said, they must have been affected by the heavenly fire dragon's heavenly fire breath, which cannot be resolved in the body, so you go to Yaoshi Valley, find the old man Tianyao, and tell him that I, Feng Anhe, asked you to go. I'll definitely give you the magic medicine. Medicine Stone Valley. Yes, old man Tianyao, he is very good at refining medicine. He owed me a favor back then, so it won't be a problem to exchange for a few pills. When talking about saving his son, old man Feng became extremely excited. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 615. Where is Medicine Stone Valley? How far is it from here? It's only 1,000 miles away. By the way, you have that flying shuttle in your hand. I'll teach you the complete secret of the royal flying shuttle, and you can make the flying shuttle bigger enough to accommodate the two of them. Feng Anhe was quite thoughtful, or in other words, a little too petty. He recognized Xianxia as his son's Taoist companion. He was unconscious at the moment. If he wanted to ride on the flying boat, he would have to be surrounded by Zuyun. Wouldn't that give him an advantage? Fortunately, Zuyun didn't think too much, otherwise he would definitely scold Feng Anhe after he obtained the magic formula. I, Zuyun, am not close to women, and there are two stunning female cultivators in the Guanzhou realm who are devoted to me. How can you like Xianxia? But when he thought of Menghui and Sun Qiniang, Zuyun inevitably felt a little disappointed. Feng Anhe noticed something, and thought that Zuyun was worried about not being able to get things done after going to Yaoshi Valley, so he patted his chest and assured that there would be no problem. After a while, Zuyun had mastered the method of flying shuttle. At the same time, with the help of Feng Anhe, he successfully used the shuttle for his own use, leaving his own soul imprint on it. Only then did he know that, this shuttle is also a spiritual weapon. However, the weapon spirit among them is particularly immature and seems to be still sleeping. Little brother, this shuttle is actually inherited from my ancestors. Please treat it well. Suddenly, Feng Anhe's tone was full of reluctance. Don't worry, if the weapon is there and the people are there, if the weapon dies, the people will die. Zuyun spoke so righteously, which made Feng Anhe deeply moved. He felt that although Zuyun was young, he was a really good person, much better than those old immortals in the nascent soul stage. As everyone knows, what Zuyun wants is extremely simple. This shuttle is not a spiritual weapon used in battle. If even his master shuttle cannot escape with his life, then there is nothing to say. Okay, without further ado, let's get going. After everything was prepared, the sky had darkened. Feng Anhe urged Zuyun. Huaitan Valley was also plunged into darkness, and the flowers on the cliff had long been burned clean by the fire of the sky fire dragon. Then I will come back as soon as possible. Zuyun clasped his hands and said seriously. Although Feng Anhe has no formal appearance and is slovenly, judging from his words and actions, he is actually a very principled person. Not being associated with those secluded nascent soul stage explains everything. In fact, he followed the instructions of his ancestors and almost followed the fire with his life. Little brother, you are at work. Be careful on the road. Feng Anhe didn't have the airs of the nascent soul stage at all. He also had his hands clasped in fists and his eyes were extremely sincere. He placed all his hopes on Zuyun. Farewell. Zuyun raised his hand and recited a mantra silently. The shuttle quickly grew in size, like a floating sampan. Zuyun jumped up, then raised his hand, and Feng Qingyang and Xianxia flew up together. Then, the shuttle turned into a stream of light and soared into the sky. It wasn't until it disappeared outside the mountain pass that Feng Anhe withdrew his gaze and looked at the surrounding cliffs. Alas, the flowers in the valley are all dead, and they don't even shine. We can only wait until the secret realm of the heavenly book is opened, and more people will die before the flowers will bloom again. Just be afraid, this kid will also bloom by then. Will die in the chaos of snatching the book of heaven. Taking advantage of the darkness, Zuyun drove the shuttle and quickly crossed Lake Baipa. Yaoshi Valley is in the northwest of Pipa Prefecture. At this speed, it can be reached without dawn. But Feng and he told him that there was a curfew in Yaoshi Valley. At night, they would set up a protective formation to prevent outsiders from entering. Moreover, the disciples in the valley are not allowed to walk freely. However, Yaoshija keeps a low profile in Pipa and has good relations with all the major sections. It has always maintained neutrality and never participated in the battles between the major sects. Regardless of whether they are from the righteous path or from the demon sect, as long as they come to buy elixirs, they will not refuse them. The biggest difference from the Fire Dragon sect is that the Fire Dragon sect's elixirs are more targeted at fire-based monks. Of course, some auxiliary elixirs have no attribute requirements, and they also refine them. Medicine Stone Valley can refine any type of elixir. If the Fire Dragon sect specializes in the fire element, then Yaoshi Valley is involved in all of them. In the entire Pipa realm, apart from the sect's own alchemists, 30% of the elixirs circulating on the market come from the Fire Dragon sect, and the remaining 70% come from the Medicine Stone Valley. This shows how powerful Yaoshi Valley's alchemy technique is. But in fact, Zuyun didn't think about going to Yaoshi Valley. Let Feng Qingyang wake up, he wants to try it himself. Since these two people were unconscious due to being contaminated by the fire power of the Sky Fire Dragon, what if I could use the Sky Fire Dragon to take back the fire power? If this doesn't work, it's not too late to go to Yaoshi Valley. Anyway, if he went now, he wouldn't be able to enter the Medicine Stone Valley, so he just took advantage of this time to find a secluded place. At the same time, he also needs some time to solve a lot of things about himself. Whether it is rescuing Lian Nishang from the alms bowl, retrieving the Skyfire from the pasture, or seeing how the Skyfire Dragon is doing in the Fire Spirit Bead. He must do all this before the secret realm of the Book of Heaven. As for Medicine Stone Valley, if there was really no need to go, Zuyun decided to keep Feng Anhe's favor temporarily, and wait until he left the secret realm of the Heavenly Book to see if he could get some benefits back. After all, Feng Anhe blew up Yaoshi Valley. Even the breath of heavenly fire can be dispersed, so you can imagine how mysterious their elixirs are. After flying about 500 miles, Zuyun was flying among a mountain range. It is not surprising that the Pipa realm is mountainous. After finding a valley, he quickly landed, first setting up a 9-turning 9-yang formation, and then a Do-turning star-shifting formation. Then he put down Feng Qingyang and Xianxia, put away the shuttle, and turned around to enter the Immortal Mansion. However, he did not go to the weapon refining room to find Lian Nishang, but went into the pasture first. In addition to the 2 demon foxes he needs to appease a little, he also needs to find Fen Tianyan to see if he can subdue the Skyfire Dragon. At this time, the west of the Fire Dragon sect was also deep in the mountains. The demon refining tower seems to be integrated with the ground. In the tower, Zhu Feng had a good rest and looked at Wu Chideo in front of him. "Old guy, why don't you tell me?" I saw that Wu Chideo was covered in scars, and his eyes staring at Zhu Feng were full of anger. He simply couldn't believe that he couldn't do anything to this overly young boy in front of him. Obviously, he has cultivated to the 9th life, which can be said to have entered the realm of half-infant, and he has also mastered the teleportation that can only be achieved by nascent soul. But unfortunately, nothing can be done about this kid. "Look again, there's nothing you can do against me," Zhu Feng said calmly. "Anyway, your life is in my hands. If I want you to die, you can't live. If I want you to live, you can't die. Old man, the point of knowledge will teach you the magic skills of the 9 generations. As for me, I will give you a pleasure. Otherwise, you will regret it. Speaking of this, Zhu Feng's whole body was filled with a shocking force. This was because he borrowed the power of the demon refining tower to force Wu Chidao to the ground. Come into this world. Wu Chidao showed his character and his momentum was not weak at all. Boy, don't even think about it. I am also a member of the Devil's Way. I have killed more people than you have ever seen. How can I believe your nonsense? And the 9-turn demon gong is the secret of our puppet controlling demon section. You, an outsider, still want to get it? I won't give it to you even after I die. Ha ha ha. Zhu Feng laughed wildly and said, I said, if I don't let you die, you can't die. In this demon refining tower, I am the one and only existence. Oh. Wu Chidao endured the severe pain all over his body and said sarcastically, if you were so strong, how could you let that kid in the middle stage of pill formation run away? Moreover, you don't dare to go out and chase him. Boy, with your little ability, even if I give you the 9 transformation demonic skills, how can you possibly practice it? Even Wu Chidao didn't know that these words hit Zhu Feng's sore spot. For Zhu Feng, Zhu Yun is his obsession. He embarked on the path of immortality, from an ignorant boy far away from the barren stone mountain to the Lingjian sect hundreds of miles away. Didn't he just want to prove that he was stronger than Zhu Yun? But due to an unexpected combination of circumstances, he and Zhu Yun became sworn enemies. I wish Yun will not die and his obsession will not be eradicated. Several times, he took advantage and thought Zhu Yun would die. But he didn't expect that Zhu Yun would run away in the end. And Wu Chidao even laughed in front of him at this time. It is tolerable, but what is unbearable? Old man, I will make you regret practicing the 9-life demonic skill. Zhu Feng reached out and grabbed Wu Chidao's neck as if his hand traveled through the void. Afterwards, Zhu Feng pinched Wu Chidao and walked all the way through the light door to the 9th floor. The 9th floor is completely different. Wu Chidao felt a crisis in his heart for no reason. What are you up to? Zhu Feng just said, I'll ask you to take a bath and relax. As soon as the words fell, Wu Chidao was thrown into the black pool. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 616. The junction of the Shiwen Mountains and Peeper Realm. A golden shadow swept through the night and finally landed at the foot of the mountain. 2 graceful figures jumped down from the back of the golden shadow. One of them said, Aniao, you should go back and don't follow us. Fairy Meng, old man's son asked me to protect you. Aniao said, and then he transformed into a strong man. However, this time he was wearing clothes, unlike when he first met Meng Wei, he was shirtless. Moreover, his body was actually flowing with spiritual power, just like a foundation-building cultivator. Wei, the arrangement of the 7th uncle must have his reasons. Besides, there are many Yuanying cultivators in Peeper Realm. With Aniao here, it doesn't matter whether they can beat them or not, at least they can run away. After that, Sun Qiniang turned to Aniao and smiled, is it, Aniao? In fact, she hoped that Aniao could catch up. At this time, not only did she recover from her injuries, but the scars on her face from the fire were also completely removed, and she regained her former appearance. All of this, in addition to the elixir that Sun Suanhua refined for her, the spiritual medicines needed were all found by a Niao from the 10,000 mountains. 7 fairies are right. A Niao nodded repeatedly. They actually left Yejia village together, but for the safety of Sun Suanhua, they first sent Sun Suanhua to Chuzhu, and then flew all the way to Peeper Realm along the periphery of the 10,000 mountains. With a demon king like a Niao, the road is unobstructed and it is impossible to encounter blind demon beasts. Seeing that Sun Qiniang was helping him speak, A Niao was naturally anxious to express his opinion. If Mengwei didn't let him follow, he didn't know what to do in the future. His memory was that since he was picked up and brought back to the land of Chenin, he had always regarded himself as a human being, not a demon king. If he separated from the two women again, would he have to go back to be with the demon beasts? But Niao, I think it's a little inconvenient. If you really want to follow, how about flying high in the sky like before and not being discovered by others? Mengwei is easygoing now. Seeing Niao was unwilling to leave, he had to give in and said. Niao looked at Sun Qiniang again, asking for help through his eyes. But this time, Sun Qiniang agreed with Mengwei's decision. That's good. Niao has excellent eyesight anyway, and can see us no matter how high we fly. At worst, if we meet the nascent soul stage, we can use some beauty tricks. As long as the other party is a little careless, Niao can come to save us. Hearing this, Niao showed a look of loss on his face, but soon, he cheered up again, nodded to the two women, turned back into the golden bird, and flew straight into the sky. After a while, he disappeared. The night sky is dotted with stars. Perhaps one of the starlight is emitted by Niao. Only Mengwei and Sun Qiniang were left here. Wei, in fact, it is the best decision for Niao to follow us. Sun Qiniang put away her smile and said seriously. Mengwei said lightly, I know. You know? Then why did you let Niao go far away? If I didn't know that you had some ideas, you actually didn't want Niao to go so far away. You have just broken through the foundation building stage, and I am only in the early stage of Dan formation. If we really meet someone who is looking for trouble, I am afraid that you and I will be in danger in less than a breath. Sun Qiniang crossed her arms, stood proudly, and looked directly at Mengwei. This may be a decision about life and death. But Mengwei smiled lightly, and his beautiful face seemed to reflect the starlight. Tianming, what you see is only in front of you, but what I see is the fire dragon sect. Hearing Mengwei calling Tianming's name, Sun Qiniang immediately frowned and shouted in a delicate voice, Little demon girl, don't call me Tianming. I call you Tianming, you call me little demon girl, isn't that good? Mengwei smiled sweetly, even the look of playing rogue is so beautiful. Ah! Mengwei. I am Sun Qiniang, not Jian Tianming. But I can't change my mouth, what should I do? Let it go. Sun Qiniang felt that she was going crazy. For this name, they didn't know how many times they argued in Yejia village, but they couldn't change the name Mengwei called her. According to Mengwei, she couldn't control why she was like this. It stands to reason that she has experienced life and death, and she has become indifferent to everything, not to mention Jian Tianming who has fought against her countless times. And now it is really Sun Qiniang. Jian Tianming, he has been dead for a long time. Tianming, you know, I can't do anything. How about you change your name? Change your name? If changing your name is useful, I'll take it as a pseudonym no matter what you call me. But can you please not call me Jian Tianming anymore? Sun Qiniang almost begged. Didn't you say Jian Tianming is dead? Mengwei was also very strange, but for some reason, she couldn't control herself at all. Whenever she wanted to talk to Sun Qiniang, she would shout like this. Call me whatever you want. Sun Erniang or Sun Juniang. Sun Qiniang was about to cry. After she broke through the Jindan stage, when her soul became stronger, she specially searched her purple mansion and soul, but there was no trace of Jian Tianming in it, so she thought Jian Tianming was dead. Even for a long time, she almost forgot the three words Jian Tianming. Unexpectedly, after arriving at Yejia village and recovering from her injuries, Mengwei began to call her Jian Tianming. It didn't matter if they called her like that in Yejia village. But the problem was that they were going to the fire dragon sect soon. Any cultivator who had been to Yejing would know that the only one with the surname Jian was Wan Jianshan. This would cause unnecessary trouble. Sunday Tianming. Meng Wei had just called out the word sun, but then he couldn't help but say the word Tianming, which almost made Sun Qiniang collapse again. But fortunately, it wasn't the three words Jian Tianming after all. She calmed down. How about you call me Sun Tianming from now on? Sun Qiniang changed a word. Tianming Tianming, I added a life. She looked up at the sky. If it wasn't for Aniao, she would obviously be dead. Okay, Sunday Tianming. Meng Wei's words were a bit awkward, but fortunately it was much better than simply calling Tianming. Both of them were thoughtful people, and they knew that they should not be careless when they went to the Fire Dragon sect. After all, their cultivation was still too weak. Wei, do you think we can find news about Zuyun in the Fire Dragon sect? The senior I met before said that Zuyun stayed in the Fire Dragon sect for a while. Sun Qiniang took out a brand new magic sword and took Meng Wei to the sky with the sword, and then said this. I don't know, it depends on fate. Meng Wei blinked, looking a little indifferent, but in his heart, it seemed that something had pulled him. I don't know when Zuyun occupied an extremely important position in her heart. Humph, you are really good at pretending, you are worthy of being a demon witch. Sun Qiniang curled her lips and said, but was refuted by Meng Wei, whether we can meet is not something I can decide. If it doesn't depend on fate, then how can it depend on you? Sun Qiniang is not a person who admits defeat. She was used to bickering in Yejia village, so she immediately said, anyway, after I go to the Fire Dragon sect, I will kill a few people to help Chen Hua get revenge, and then find a chance to escape, and finally return to Yunzhou to be the leader of my Xiaoao sect. As for Zuyun? Out of sight, out of mind. If it wasn't for saving her, look at how much I have been through. Meng Wei smiled and said, you are so ashamed to say that. Meng Wei, just like Zuyun, I dare to admit it. You Sunday Tianming, but you can't say it. Dare to say it? Sun Qiniang's pretty face turned red, and she spat, bah, shameless. You make the love between men and women sound high-sounding. Meng Wei spread his hands, we demon women dare to love, hate, and speak out? Unlike you Wanjian Mountain, everyone is a hypocrite. You are so good, Meng Wei. Sun Qiniang's forehead was bulging with veins, and she said angrily, I finally asked you to change my name to Sun Tianming, but you brought it up to Wanjian Mountain again? Please, don't say it again, okay? Meng Wei also knew that he had said something wrong, and apologized quickly, I'm sorry, I can't control myself. When I think of your original identity, I can't help it. She showed an apologetic expression and kept rubbing her temples. Sun Qiniang also knew that she was a little fierce, so she lowered her head. After a long silence, she said, Wei, do you think, Jian Tianming is not dead? I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 617. Hearing this, Meng Wei's expression changed. She and Jian Tianming have been lifelong enemies. In fact, the reason why Jian Tianming possessed Sun Qiniang at that time was because of his own doing. Maybe it was because of this that he uncontrollably called Sun Qiniang Jian Tianming? However, there is no evidence to show that Jian Tianming is still alive. In other words, it is possible to come back to life again. Moreover, this should be something that only Sun Qiniang can understand, and the fact that she asked this question at this time is enough to show that she has no idea. I don't know, but... Meng Wei opened his mouth, paused for a moment and then said, do you really not know whether you are dead or not? Sun Qiniang looked solemn, thinking about Jian Tianming again, which made her feel uncertain. When I broke through the core formation again, I tried to find her existence in Zifu, but I couldn't find her. Meng Wei pondered for a moment and said, Jian Tianming is Wan Jianren's direct disciple. According to my master, Wan Jianren also came to the Peeper realm and obtained a unique method of reincarnation, so Jian Tianming's golden elixir disembodiment is different from others, maybe. Sun Qinyang asked anxiously, maybe what? Maybe she's hiding. You mean, she is in my soul, hiding so that I can't find her? Yes, my master once fought with Wan Jianren at Zilang Peak, and Wan Jianren used a unique method to switch bodies. Later, they were all sucked into the secret realm. And in the secret realm, their realm was restricted, and their bodies were destroyed by thunder. Only one golden elixir was left, and they were trapped in a wooden house. Their strength was already similar, and they couldn't fight with only the golden elixir left. Only then did they change from Wan Jian Ren Mao knows a little bit. What Meng Wei said was what Luo Yan Ran said. After they met in the secret realm, Meng Wei asked about her disappearance that year. Is that so? Sun Qinyang patted her head, trying to find out the information about Jin Dan's escape from Jian Tianming's memory. Unexpectedly, I found nothing. This made her feel a little nervous. Could it be that Jian Tianming hid this part of the memory? In this way, it is really possible that Jian Tianming is lingering in her soul and looking for opportunities to turn over. Xianxia, it seems I can't go to the Fire Dragon sect with you. Sun Qinyang's eyes flashed with determination and she spoke seriously to Meng Wei. How? Meng Wei was stunned. Originally, she accompanied Sun Qinyang to the Fire Dragon sect, but in the end, she didn't go. I'm afraid that I may not be able to control Jian Tianming at any time. If she takes away control of my body, I'm afraid, she will kill you. Sun Qinyang held her head in pain, her nails embedded in her bun. I believe you won't, Meng Wei shook his head and said, Sunday Tianming, you and I have lived together in Yejia village for so long, don't I understand your temperament? You are not someone who gives up easily. Man. Think about it, if Jian Tianming really wanted to take your body, would you obey? Sun Qinyang stopped what she was doing and raised her head. Her eyes were already filled with red bloodshot eyes, and even her voice became a little hoarse. I don't know, I don't know. Actually, all you need to think about is that if Jian Tianming succeeds to you, then you will never be able to see Zuyun again in this life. In fact, Jian Tianming will even control this body to kill Zuyun. If I can stop it, I will. It's okay, but look at me. Meng Wei spread his hands, implying that he was only in the foundation building period now. Once Jian Tianming takes control of Sun Qinyang's body, she will also be in the pill-forming stage. With the grudge between the two of them, Meng Wei will definitely die. Meng Wei was a smart woman, and she caught Sun Qinyang's weakness in just a few words. That is Zuyun. Compared with herself, Sun Qinyang still prefers tradition. But the more traditional a woman is, the more intense the emotions in her heart will be when they burst out. You're right, I can't let him hurt Zuyun. Suddenly, Sun Qinyang said loudly. Isn't that great? Let's go find Zuyun now. Zuyun is smarter than you and me. Maybe there is really a way to solve your problem. Meng Wei thought to himself, that's how Zuyun could calmly respond to every crisis. Sun Qinyang and Zuyun had experienced life and death, escaped disaster several times, and fought back to kill masters who were completely stronger than them, so they naturally agreed with Meng Wei's words. That's right, go find Zuyun. After being solved by Meng Wei, Sun Qinyang's face was also full of energy. That proud Sun Qinyang is back again. Wei, hold on tight, I'm going to speed up. Sun Qinyang turned around and wielded her sword. Looking up from the ground, the sword light is like a shooting star, dragging a long light tail across the night sky. In the demon refining tower, the shrill screams continued to echo in the 9th floor. Zhu Fengjing stood in the center of the altar, looking at Wu Chidao indifferently, without the slightest pity. How could Wu Chidao have imagined that Zhu Feng could torture him with this black pool water? The dark power that penetrates the golden elixir, and the lingering influence on the soul that seems to be in his purple mansion. No matter which one, it was unbearable for him. But he had no power to resist at all. The demon refining tower is Zhu Feng's home field. This 9th floor is where Zhu Feng can use the power of the demon refining tower as he wishes. I said. Finally, Wu Chidao decided to give up. Now, he just wants to die happily. The pain he suffered in the black pool was countless times more powerful than the pain he suffered from practicing for 9 lifetimes combined. Snort. Zhu Feng snorted coldly, stretched out his hand, lifted Wu Chidao out of the black pool, and then threw him heavily in front of the altar. I told you, if you don't eat the toast, you will have to drink the wine as a penalty. Wu Chidao, you only have one last chance. If you don't talk about the 9 life magic skill, then I will throw you into the black pool forever and ever, until Zhu Feng Shen dies. The implication is that as long as Zhu Feng lives, he will be tortured. Zhu Feng is now in the elixir formation stage, and he himself is no more than 20 years old. In other words, even if he doesn't practice now, he still has nearly 1,000 years to live. Wu Chidao once again thought of the pain of the past few days, and his heart shuddered. I said, I will say it. I just ask you to give me a good time after I finish saying it. He has completely surrendered. Very good, I like people who know their faces best. Zhu Feng knelt down, looked directly into Wu Chidao's eyes, then reached out and patted his face, saying, tell me, if you say a word wrong, I will let you live well, ha ha ha. Don't worry, I don't want to live now, I just want to die. Wu Chidao took a hard breath and said seriously. Zhu Feng also stood up, and Wu Chidao passed every word of the 9 worlds demonic art into Zhu Feng's ears. The 9th world demonic art has 9 chapters. Practice 1 chapter in each life to reach the peak in the late stage of pill formation, and then when you break through, you will be reincarnated successfully. After reincarnation, part of the memory will be lost, but the memory of practicing the 9 generations of magic will not disappear. In this way, after a total of 9 lives of practice, the 9 magic arts have been cultivated to perfection. For the last breakthrough, many things need to be prepared, and then there will be no bottlenecks, and the elixir will become an infant. After becoming a baby, he is invincible in the same situation. In fact, Wu Chidao also had certain thoughts. The leader of the demon sect like him is cunning and scheming. Even if he surrenders to Zhu Feng after experiencing all the pain, he will do whatever it takes to get revenge. No matter how smart Zhu Feng is, he still doesn't know that Wu Chidao has concealed the things and steps needed for his final breakthrough. After finishing the first chapter of the 9 worlds demonic art, Zhu Feng did not find anything unusual. Although he is young, he has at least reached the elixir formation stage, and he still has some understanding of the operation of the demonic spiritual power in the body. The 9th world demonic art is no different. It's nothing more than practicing 9 types, and finally choosing to return to one. The reason for this understanding is entirely due to his learning of the 9 turns and 9 suns formation and knowing that 9 is the number of the sun. At that time, Sun Suanhua was deceived by him. For Zhu Yun's sake, he taught carefully and quoted scriptures so that Zhu Feng could better understand how he created the 9 turns and 9 yang formation. After memorizing all the 9 magic arts in his heart, Zhu Feng's eyes suddenly shone brightly. He reached out and pressed his hand on Wu Chidao's head, and then activated his devouring demonic arts. I keep my word, and I will send you on your way now. It's just, you wasted a lot of my time, so you can't die like this in vain. While speaking, Wu Chidao's majestic vitality was sucked away by Zhu Feng. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 618. Wu Chidao has practiced for 9 generations and has reached the peak of the late Jindan stage. In fact, the vitality he provides to Zhu Feng is comparable to that of 9 people. This is something Zhu Feng did not expect. When he felt the vitality he swallowed, layer by layer, constantly transformed into the magic power in his body to impact the realm barrier, he was suddenly surprised. Until I don't know how long it took, Wu Chideo's vitality was gone, and he had turned into a corpse, and Zhu Feng actually broke through to the peak of the late Jindan stage. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect it, I didn't expect it, it's really unexpected, only one step away from the nascent soul. He laughed wildly, and his eyes revealed an extremely cold look. The voice continued to echo on the 9th floor of the demon refining tower. Until the laughter faded, he suddenly looked straight at his outstretched hands and muttered to himself, breaking through the nascent soul stage is just around the corner. So, do I have to practice the 9 life magic skill again? If I practice for 9 generations and then break through, I can fight against the higher level, which will make me stronger. But it will waste a lot of time. I have been practicing Taoism from scratch, and it has only been a few years. According to 9 generations, it is about 50 years. The nascent soul stage makes Zhu Feng particularly excited. In fact, as long as he breaks through the nascent soul stage and controls the demon refining tower, he can also run rampant in the Peepa realm. Even, if he wants to kill Zhu Yun, it is just around the corner. So, what should I do after killing Zhu Yun? For the first time, Zhu Feng thought about his future plans and suddenly felt a little confused. The nascent soul stage is definitely not the pinnacle. When cultivating immortals, one naturally cultivates to become an immortal. The road to immortality is long, and Zhu Yun is just a stumbling block on my road to immortality. I should plan for the long term, and I can't let this stumbling block my future journey to immortality. However, I want to practice this 9 life magic art smoothly and save as much time as possible, so I can only cooperate with my devouring magic art. Then, it's time to prepare. Zhu Feng jumped over the black pool and walked to the other side of the 9th floor. There are 12 statues of demon kings. Rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, sheep, dog, chicken, dog, pig. If I become stronger, what's the use of these demon kings? Then break them for me. He stretched out his hand and endless magic power surged from his hand. Boom! 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 When the smoke and dust dissipated, this place had become a flat ground. Zhu Feng stepped forward, took out a magic sword, and began to carve words on this flat ground. What he wanted to write was the method of devouring demonic art and what he needed to remember at this time. The 9 life demonic art would cause a certain amount of memory loss, although all memories would be restored after cultivation. But what about during the cultivation process? The first factor that Zhu Feng relied on was that devouring demonic art could quickly advance. This was entirely due to the characteristics of the demon refining tower. Just as Zhu Feng was holding the sword and carving words, he did not realize that the 12 statues, each with 12 breaths, actually broke through the demon refining tower and flew outside. Outside the demon refining tower, the 12 breaths merged into one, and finally locked a direction and flew towards the east. At this time, a bird was flying in the endless sky. A few miles away from him, Sun Qinyang was flying a sword with Meng Wei to the Fire Dragon section. They wanted to reach the Fire Dragon sect at dawn and find a way to enter the Fire Dragon sect. Suddenly, a transparent breath climbed up his body at a speed faster than him. The bird was caught off guard and trembled all over. When the breath completely penetrated his body, he could not move at all and fell into a coma. In this way, the bird fell from the sky with golden light all over his body. Huh? Look, there is a meteor. Sun Qinyang saw the light with a long tail at a glance. Really? Meng Wei stared with a pair of big eyes, and then hurriedly said, "Make a wish." It is said that if you see a meteor and make a wish before it disappears, it will come true. Wait for you to say. I have made all the wishes. Sun Qiniang said with a smile. Okay, don't wait for me. Meng Wei shouted tenderly, and then quickly closed his eyes, clasped his hands in front of his chest, and silently said in his heart, I hope that Yongxian's road will be smooth. After a long while, she opened her eyes and met Sun Qiniang's eyes. What did you wish for? The two said in unison. It won't work if you say it. It was the same sentence again. The two smiled at each other and tacitly stopped talking. But they all felt much better. After traveling all night, they finally arrived at the nearest market to the Fire Dragon sect before dawn. That was where Zuyun and Lian Nishang met Wuchideo. When they came, they had agreed not to rush into the Fire Dragon sect, but to find out as much information about the Fire Dragon sect as possible. Although the sooner they saw Zuyun, the better, but while ensuring that Zuyun was still safe, they had to ensure their own safety. Especially Meng Wei was only in the foundation building stage, and with her beauty, she was too conspicuous. After the incident in the Beast Pet Pavilion, the population of this market has declined a lot. There was the Fire Dragon sect's closure of the mountain and the movement caused by Zuyun at that time. The two landed at night and did not attract attention. They found an inn and checked in. They only waited until dawn and made preparations before going to the Fire Dragon sect. And in the Immortal Mansion, Zuyun also found a way to save Feng Qingyang and Xianxia. Through coercion and inducement to the Sky-Fire Dragon in the Sky-Fire Spirit Pearl, they learned that the Sky-Fire Dragon could take away the fire energy that they accidentally stained. But the condition was that Zuyun could not let the Sky-Fire Dragon die. After some thinking, the final condition was to let the Sky-Fire Dragon stay in the Fire Spirit Pearl to recuperate temporarily. Zuyun also considered this decision. First of all, he already had the burning Sky Flame, so there was no need for another Sky Fire. Although the burning Sky Flame could become stronger by devouring the Sky Fire Dragon, the power level of the burning Sky Flame itself was much weaker than that of the Sky Fire Dragon. If the burning Sky Flame was to devour rashly, it would most likely allow the Sky Fire Dragon to become the master. If so, Zuyun would lose more than he gained. Because the burning Sky Flame no longer needed to devour flames to strengthen itself. Zuyun's current idea was to keep the Sky Fire Dragon. Anyway, he could feel that as long as he didn't want it, the Sky Fire Dragon would never be able to escape from the Fire Spirit Pearl. Then, as long as he reaches the spirit world, he can find a place to release him, and it won't be considered a breach of his promise. Anyway, there are so many powerful people in the spirit world that Tian Huolong can only tuck his tail between his legs. In addition, when Zuyun needs it, Tian Huolong will do his best to help. In Zuyun's words, it is to pay rent. My Fire Spirit Pearl is not a place for you to live for free. Moreover, there is pure fire spiritual power in it for him to recover. In this way, one person and one fire, a consensus was reached, which also saved Zuyun the trouble of calling back Burning Sky Flame. After entering the ranch, he comforted the two foxes. In order to prevent them from being frightened in the future, he ordered the golden dragon to transform and send them to the ancestral tree. After there was no need to suppress Wuchideo, the ancestral tree and the holy mountain did not need to be distracted, which was quite suitable for the foxes to survive. And there were green trees and abundant wood spiritual power there. It was possible that such an environment could help them to untie their knots. It can also help the more seriously injured demon fox recover. After doing all this, he solved the matter of the Sky Fire Dragon. After not needing to look for burning Sky Flame, Zuyun exchanged greetings with Zhao Kamang and others, told them to practice well, and then flashed back to the Immortal Mansion. Next, it is time to solve the matter of Lian Nishang. Skyfire Bug, it's time to show your strength. After entering the weapon refining room, Zuyun said seriously. What's the matter? Fighting. I can't fight now, I can't even beat you. The Sky Fire Dragon thought that Zuyun had agreed with him before that he would help him when he encountered a powerful enemy in the future. But he didn't expect that he would need him after just a short while. He didn't know that he was in the Immortal Mansion at this time. The Fire Spirit Pearl was a completely new world for the Sky Fire Dragon. Moreover, this world was controlled by Zuyun. As long as Zuyun's mind moved, the Sky Fire Dragon could not sense any situation in the outside world at all. No, I have a friend who is trapped in a magic weapon. I think you have refined countless weapons in Huayden Valley, so you must be good at this. When asking people to do something, Zuyun is used to complimenting them first. Refine a weapon. Tian Hualong immediately refused. You think too highly of me. I was suppressed by Huayden Valley before, and my mind was gone. And I was used by the Feng family's fire control tactics to restrain me. To put it bluntly, I can't refine anything. Tian Hualong belittled himself without any hesitation. Because he just wanted to recover quickly at this time. The fire spirit power in the fire spirit bead was very tempting to him. Tian Hualong, I told you that after doing this, I will not bother you for a month. Besides, I didn't ask you to refine a weapon, but to ensure that you rescued people from the magic weapon without hurting anyone. As for the magic weapon, you can do whatever you want. You mean, you don't care about the magic weapon? Tian Hualong found the point at once. Yes, magic weapons are not as important as people. Zuyun smiled and said, I just want to save people. As for magic weapons, I can refine them myself if I want them. You. Tian Hualong paused, then said, what a weirdo. Okay, if you want to destroy the magic weapon to save people, I can do it. I am Tian Hualong, but I am Tian Hualong. Hearing Tian Hualong's agreement, Zuyun finally breathed a sigh of relief, and then pushed the door open and entered the weapon refining room. Warm TI. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 619. Huo Qinjua, are you here? Although Lian Nishang knew Zuyun's name, she was used to calling him Huo Qinjua. Well, I'm here, and I found a way to save you this time. Zuyun knew that the time ratio in the Immortal Mansion to the outside world was 1:7, so he was put into the Immortal Mansion and now, do the math, has it been almost half a year? Huo Qinjua, I thought you left me here and ran away. Lian Nishang was crying. Who would have thought that this direct disciple who was famous for his fiery temper in the Fire Dragon sect would have such a side? It's okay, it's okay. I keep my word. We agreed to go to the secret realm of the Book of Heaven together. How could I leave you behind? I'm just looking for a way to save you. Zuyun was really afraid that Lian Nishang would cry, and for some reason, he couldn't see a woman like this. Lian Nishang's next question shocked Zuyun. The secret realm of the Book of Heaven, hasn't it been opened yet? He quickly said, not yet. How long has it been? There are still 2 months left. 2 more months. I feel like I've been here for almost a year. Lian Nishang was a little skeptical. At first, she didn't pay special attention to time. In the Immortal Mansion, there was no difference between day and night, and she had never experienced the change of light and darkness in the weapon refining room. Later, after waiting for a long time, Zuyun never came. He was alone in the alms bowl, going from boredom to loss, from loss to discouragement. Zuyun had no idea what kind of mental journey Lian Nishang had gone through. Otherwise, how could such a strong woman show such an unconventional side after hearing Zuyun's voice? Being alone in such a strange place and unable to move, not having a breakdown is already considered a very strong psychological state for Lian Nishang. Maybe you were sucked into this alms bowl, your body became smaller, and your grasp of time was no longer accurate, right? Zuyun was so anxious that he found a reason to fool him. The biggest secret of the immortal mansion is the difference in the flow of time. He couldn't let anyone know. Is that so? Lian Nishang was a little suspicious, but couldn't find any reason to doubt it. That must be the case. When the time comes, just come with me to the secret realm of the Book of Heaven. I've grabbed the bead. Zuyun quickly changed the topic, and sure enough, Lian Nishang no longer thought about it, but said in surprise, "You returned to the fire dragon sect to grab the door beads." "Yes, but let's talk about this later. I'll help you rescue you from this alms bowl first." With that said, Zuyun released the sky fire dragon from the fire spirit pearl and said, "I leave it to you, but be sure not to hurt anyone." Is this the magical weapon? The sky fire dragon has a very high vision and does not pay attention to the alms bowl at all. Break. Zuyun sneered and said, "Yes, this magic weapon cannot penetrate the eyes of your sky fire dragon. But the problem is that you are not a sky fire dragon now, but a sky fire insect. Tell me, how long will it take?" Skyfire Dragon's face fell, and he said helplessly, "I don't know. If it was before, this would only happen in a matter of seconds. But now I am too weak." "Okay, I'm not in a hurry, you can give it a try before talking." After saying that, Zuyun sat down cross-legged. Although, there must be a formation in this refining room that will prevent the Skyfire Dragon from getting out. But I can't control Lian Nishang. Zuyun wants to take Lian Nishang away from the immortal mansion directly after the Skyfire Dragon rescues him. So no matter how long it takes, he has to wait here. The Skyfire Dragon was like a loach, flying towards the alms bowl. In order not to hurt Lian Nishang, he could only control it in a subtle way and did not dare to amplify his fire power in the slightest. Soon, he drilled a hole in the alms bowl, but this did not completely destroy the alms bowl. Fortunately, Zuyun is patient enough and he is not afraid of time loss. In the immortal mansion, the most indispensable thing is time. He sat cross-legged and watched the Skyfire Dragon make holes in the alms bowl. Not long after, a circle of small holes had been punched out on the entire upper edge of the alms bowl. Next, the Skyfire Dragon melted the partition between the caves, which greatly consumed the Skyfire Dragon's energy. The main reason is that he is afraid that the molten iron melted by this magic weapon will burn Lian Nishang, who cannot move. What goes around comes around. Zuyun just looked at it, but suddenly thought of a question. That is, if Lian Nishang is taken out, she will definitely meet Xianxia. And I had used the heaven-changing talisman to change myself into Lian Nishang, and had a fight with Xianxia. If we meet again. No, I have to prepare some heaven-changing charms. Zuyun immediately stood up and said, "You guys are busy first, I have something to do, I will be back later." After saying that, he immediately left the refining room and went to the cave. On the stone table, there was a while of busy work. Several hours passed, and Zuyun finally drew 3 heaven-changing talismans. When the time comes, just wait for the Skyfire Dragon to release Lian Nishang, and then let her use the heaven-changing talisman to change her appearance. As for the reason, it's very simple. Zuyun just said it. Lian Nishang knew what Zuyunhui was capable of. Only when he had passed the Qi, would he not reveal any flaws in front of Xianxia. Returning to the refining room again, the heavenly fire dragon had burned the alms bowl to the bottom and did not continue to burn it. All right. Zuyun looked at the sky fire dragon and asked. "It seems to be fine. I think my mind is not clear. You should try to pour the bowl out when the first circle is burned. Maybe you can pour the person out." The Skyfire Dragon was tired and resentful. This was a huge drain on him. Zuyun was speechless. It seemed to be true. Because the bowl was open upwards, Lian Nishang was still trapped in it after drilling holes in circles. Seeing that only about 30% of the size was left, Zuyun raised his head and turned the bowl over. Suddenly, a red shadow fell from it and then quickly grew larger. In just a blink of an eye, Lian Nishang appeared in front of him. Zuyun was speechless. The sky fire dragon wailed. One person and one fire, both knew that they had their own thoughts at the time, so they didn't think about it, thus wasting a lot of time and energy. Okay, don't talk anymore, go back first. Zuyun came back to his senses and put the sky fire dragon back into the fire spirit pearl. There was silence in the weapon refining room. Huo Qinjua, where exactly is this place? Lian Nishang suddenly asked. This is my outer space. Zuyun knew that he couldn't hide it, so he had to tell the truth. However, there was something more important that he needed to tell Lian Nishang. He told Lian Nishang that Xianxia was outside and the previously planned words, and handed over 2 talismans to change the world. Lian Nishang took the talisman and asked, so, I want to become a woman whose appearance Xianxia has never seen. Zuyun pondered for a moment, actually, a man is also fine. Lian Nishang didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and a hint of shyness flashed across her face, saying, I won't become a man. Then you change. Things were almost done, and Zuyun saw that Lian Nishang hadn't moved for a long time, so he couldn't help but urge her. But, Xianxia must know the women I know. I won't change into those I don't know. Hearing this, Zuyun was silent for a while. After a while, he finally thought of a way and said, how about this, I'll draw a picture and you do it according to the picture. Can it be done this way? Lian Nishang was surprised. Zuyun smiled bitterly and said, there's nothing else to do, I'll just give it a try. After that, he took out a piece of paper, spread it on the table, and took out the talisman pen to start painting. Painting is not difficult for Zuyun, who has read a lot of books and is a cultivator in the Jindan stage. It's just that it's inevitable that he is a little unfamiliar with painting for the first time. This painting took a full hour. Huo Qinjua, can you tell me who she is? Lian Nishang's eyes flashed with disappointment. In the painting, there is a beautiful woman. Her skin is as white as cream, which forms a sharp contrast with the black clothes. Her beautiful eyes reveal a look that sees through everything in the world. It can't be said that Zuyun has a talent for painting. It can only be said that the woman in the painting is so beautiful. Only by imprinting the image of this woman deeply in your mind and heart can you paint with such charm. Her. Zuyun was feeling proud that he could paint so realistically for the first time, and then he heard Lian Nishang's question and casually said, her name is Menguia. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 620. Menguia. Lian Nishang murmured in his mouth, and then looked away for a long time, and finally fell on the paper. Do you want me to look like her? Well, Zuyun nodded and said, Xianxia has never met her. I have known Menguia since we were in Yunzhou. We've known each other since Yunzhou, you guys have known each other so early. Lian Nishang felt a little disappointed for some reason, but he still managed to come back to his senses, remembering Menguia's appearance in his heart, and then put one of the heaven-changing talismans on his forehead. Soon, she became a disguised Menguia. It's great, just like the real thing. Zuyun clapped his hands, and then said, don't let it slip then. Just say that he is my former friend. Xianxia will not be able to recognize him. I see. Lian Nishang lowered her eyes and kept fiddling with the corners of her clothes. No one knew what she was thinking. As Zuyun thought, the two of them immediately left the immortal mansion and appeared in the valley. On the ground lies a bell welcoming the summer breeze and a clear breeze. Who is he? Lian Nishang pointed at Feng Qingyang curiously and said. The sloppy half of her hair was unique, and she couldn't help but look at it a few more times. At the same time, I was still wondering, How could Xianxia be in coma at the same time as such a person? His name is Feng Qingyang, and he is the young master of the Huaydan Valley sword refining sect. In short, if you talk too much, you will be wrong. When they ask you anything, just don't know anything. I will handle it. Zuyun smiled, and then he sunk his mind into the fire spirit pearl to communicate with the sky fire dragon again. This is what we agreed on before. Absorb the breath of heavenly fire that originally belonged to you in their bodies, and I won't bother you in a short time. I know, which one to save first. Skyfire Dragon said impatiently. He was absorbing the spiritual power in the fire spirit bead to restore himself, and he was still in high spirits, but was interrupted by Zuyun, and he was naturally unhappy. But Zuyun was right, this was indeed what was promised at the beginning. Save Xianxia first. Zuyun thought for a moment and realized that Feng Qingyang must know Skyfire Dragon to make such a decision. After receiving Zuyun's instructions, the Skyfire Dragon flew out of the fire spirit pearl and landed in Xianxia's belly. After a while, Xianxia's eyelids moved slightly, and it looked like she would wake up soon. While she's still awake, hurry up and rescue Feng Qingyang. Zuyun urged. I know. The Skyfire Dragon responded and leaned on Feng Qingyang again. After taking back all the fire power, Feng Qingyang also woke up and turned around. But at this time, the Skyfire Dragon had already crawled back into the fire spirit pearl, and Zuyun also collected all the spirit stones in the two formations without leaving any traces. You finally woke up. Zuyun said to the two of them. Where are we? Feng Qingyang was the first to realize that the scene around him could not possibly be in Huaydan Valley. Xianxia regained consciousness, looked at Zuyun and said, aren't we tempering that fan for you? It's like this. Someone in the nascent soul stage attacked Huaydan Valley, and then you were also affected, so you passed out. This was the rhetoric that Zuyun and Feng and he had prepared a long time ago. Come to our Huaydan Valley during the nascent soul stage. Feng Qingyang trembled and said, they are also looking for my father. Zuyun spread his hands and pretended to be unsure and said, it should be so. Anyway, your father showed up later and sent the nascent soul stage away, and then he asked me to take you to Medicine Stone Valley to seek medicine. Isn't it possible? Feng Qingyang's eyes suddenly widened and he said, how can my father send someone away in the nascent soul stage with his deformity? Zuyun laughed dumbly and said, why, your father is also in the nascent soul stage after all. Why is it impossible to have the advantage of sitting on the home field? Feng Qingyang was suspicious, and then looked at Lian Nishang beside him. His eyes suddenly shone again. He was about to get closer, but he remembered something and his eyes suddenly closed. Good brother, who is this? This is my friend Mengwei. She just happened to have come to Yaoshi Valley to do something and went back, so she just came with us. Mengwei? What a name. Feng Qingyang secretly glanced at Xianxia beside him. Seeing that she didn't respond, he breathed a sigh of relief and then asked, good brother, how do we go back? Zuyun took out the shuttle from his arms and smiled, of course I will use this. After that, he ignored Feng Qingyang's surprised gaze and silently recited the mantra in his heart. The shuttle quickly grew in size, like a flying boat. This, why is my natal spiritual weapon here with you? Feng Qingyang asked in shock. What your father gave me is now mine. Zuyun was not polite and said with a smile. Feng Qingyang said angrily, you are taking advantage of others' danger. Are you threatening my father? Are you stupid? Zuyun asked back, how dare I threaten a nascent soul stage when I am in the Den formation stage? Feng Qingyang was speechless, what Zuyun said did make sense. No matter how bad Feng and he is, it is still the nascent soul stage. But why did my father give this shuttle passed down by his ancestors to Zuyun? Moreover, he also used the ancestral method to cut off the mental connection with him, so that he was not injured. No one can do this kind of thing except his father. Thinking of this, Feng Qingyang stepped on the shuttle with some gloominess. Only then did Xianxia say, "Who is coming to Huaytan Valley?" Zhu Yun turned his head and said, "Miss, I don't know you either. You also know that I have never been out of the mountain before." Xianxia nodded and stopped talking, but kept looking up and down Lian Nishang's face. After listening to Zhu Yun's instructions, Lian Nishang pretended not to know Xianxia at all, and nodded with a smile, which was regarded as saying hello. A group of 4 people set foot on the road back to Huaytan Valley in a somewhat eerie silence. When it was getting dark, we finally crossed Lake Baipa and returned to Pipa Prefecture. Huh? Why has Huaytan Valley become darker? Not only Feng Qingyang, but also Xianxia discovered this problem. All the flowers on the cliff have been destroyed, and there are traces of the fire dragon burning in all directions. As Zhu Yun fell, Feng and he also emerged from a room. "Qingyang, are you okay?" "That's great." Seeing Feng Qinjiang's energetic look, Feng and Lao burst into tears and stepped forward to hold him in their arms. "Dad, tell me, why did you give such a treasure as the shuttle to that boy?" Feng Qingyang pushed Feng and he away and pointed at Zhu Yun, who had just jumped off the shuttle. "This." Feng and he never imagined that he would be questioned as soon as he saw Feng Qingyang. He scratched his head and glanced at Zhu Yun before saying vaguely, "That little friend is the destined person of this shuttle." "What a ghost!" Feng Qingyang cursed loudly, glared at Feng and he, and said, "Since you were a child, you have never truly regarded me as your son. How many things did I do for you to get this shuttle? In the end, you gave it to a stranger for an unreasonable reason. Qingyang. You." When Feng and he saw this, he couldn't help but be stunned. How could his son, who had always been so kind in front of him, suddenly be so irritable? "What are you?" Feng Qingyang continued, "You haven't let me do this or that since I was little. After finally cultivating to the elixir forming stage, you asked me to learn your skills of breaking and refining swords. I said I wanted to enter the secret of the heavenly book Jing. I asked you to help me, but you said it was an ancestral precept. I am also a member of the Feng family. Why have I never heard of such an ancestral precept? If you don't like me, why did you give birth to me with your mother in the first place?" Hearing this, Feng and he suddenly became a little depressed, and Zhu Yun also felt extremely embarrassed, so he winked at Lian Nishang and left here far away. But Xianxia stayed with great interest. Because she heard some important information. Can Feng and he help others enter the secret realm of the Book of Heaven? If so, then what they discussed before after tempering the fan seems feasible. In this case, when you enter the secret realm of the Book of Heaven, you are not alone, and you have a shield you can use. However, she still doesn't understand the situation in front of her, so she will wait and see. Feng and he remained silent, not knowing how to respond to Feng Qinjiang's question. And Feng Qinjiang's years of grievances all broke out at this time, which also allowed Xianxia to get more information about the Feng family. Of course Feng and he knew that Xianxia had not left. He was still in the nascent soul stage. It was just a preconceived relationship. He made Xianxia his son's Taoist companion. He thought that sooner or later he would know these secrets. If he knew it sooner or later, what difference would it make? He had already made up his mind to step down as the head of the family and pass it on to Feng Qingyang after the end of the secret realm of the heavenly book. This is equivalent to passing on the ancestral teachings to Feng Qingyang. But judging from the current situation, if Feng Qingyang wants to regain his sanity, he has to move forward. "Qingyang, it's not that I won't tell you the ancestral teachings, but it has always been that only the head of the family can know the ancestral teachings. If you really want to know the ancestral teachings, then, Dad will pass on the position of the head of the family to you now." After saying this, Feng Anhe's eyes were full of loneliness.